Wednesday, April the 3rd. Lake level's right at 913. It's come up about a little over a foot. We had about 2.5 inches of rain a week ago. We had a little bit yesterday, but anyways, it came up a little bit, and the water temperatures, depends where you're at, but it's anywhere from 55 to as high as 60 degrees. Now, these cooler nights is probably going to cool it back down, but the fish are moving up. I've seen several beds, but very few beds with fish on them. They seem to be coming in late in the day, you know, making their beds, and I think they pull back out at night. But before I get too much into the fishing report, Pro Guide Batteries, after the Bassmaster Classic and Red Crest, released their new battery chargers, and I just put mine in, and I don't know if you can see the sheet, but they've got a lot of different configurations of chargers, and they're really priced well, starting out at $125 up to $499. And like my situation, I run 5 batteries, so I was having to run 2 different chargers. Now with the different battery chargers they have, you can run a different multiple arrays of batteries, and you're able to do it on just one charger for a really reasonable price. So you need to check them out. They'll charge AGMs, acid, lithiums. They'll do a single 36 volt, a single 24 or 24 volt, and then you're still able to charge your 12 volt cranking. So they've got multiple different chargers to fit your needs. You need to check them out. But as far as the fishing, you know, the weights are still crazy good. I think they had the Joe Bass this weekend, and there was about 4 stringers over 20 pounds, and I mean 14, 15 pounds went down a long ways. I think a lot of them bigger stringers of fish are still coming out there on Demiki rigs, maybe some Alabama rigs. There's still a lot of bait and birds out in the middle of nowhere. I haven't spent a lot of time doing that. It's a little hard to do guiding, just chasing, you know, individual fish. I've mainly been up on the bank, and to be honest, I'm struggling to get a lot of bites. And now if I go up the upper White River from, say, Shell Knob, the mouth of the Kings, either go up to Kings or up the upper White, I catch a lot more numbers of fish up there. And I catch them up there on swim baits, Ned rigs, little pee-wee football jig, Demiki rig as well. But in the water temperatures, you know, a little warmer up there. It's high 50s. You'll see some 60s in the afternoon. But those fish seem to be a lot more aggressive in that shallower water. Now, the other bite I've got going is a crankbait bite, you know, rock crawler. I'm throwing multiple different colors, a lot of crawdad patterns with reds. But I'm having to cover a lot of water, but the quality is good when you get a bite. And usually whenever you get a bite, you're going to get, you know, 2 or 3 bites in a couple 100-yard stretch. The banks that I seem to be catching them on are pockets just off of the main lake. Now I've been doing this from, say, the Branson Bell or, you know, State Park to about Baxter to, you know, Ants Creek area. But I'm fishing, you know, little pockets with ledge rock right off the main lake, and, you know, a lot of fish in the creeks, as far as like Cow Creek, Big and Little Indian. And I'm trying to key on a certain type of rock. You know, it's the bigger black lava rock. It's got some gravel mixed in. But you almost got to fish everything that you come up on. Because just about time I think I got it figured out on one type of rock, then I'll catch them on flat gravel. And the moss in that area there doesn't seem to be too bad. Up the upper White River, it's, you know, the water's really clear, and the moss is not bad at all, which is a little strange. It seems like the moss is worse, like up in the James River, Long Creek Arm. The areas that got a little bit of stain to them, seems like the moss is a little bad, you know, a little worse than other places. And that'll affect you some on the crankbait. But what I have figured out on the crankbait is you almost got to fish parallel to the bank. You know, once you get a bite or two in that whatever depth it's in, that 8 to 12 feet seems to be working about the best for me. But if I'm casting from the boat, 90-degree angle to the bank, I feel like my bait's not staying in the strike zone too long. But if I can parallel the bank, I can keep the bait in that 8 to 12 foot a little bit better, and I seem to be getting a few more bites doing that. Now, you know, on the cloudy, windy days like yesterday, you'd thought it probably, you know, should have been better, and then it may have been for somebody, but I fished it up around in the Baxter area in the Indians, and we had a lot of trouble with moss up there. But even where we didn't have the trouble with moss, the bite wasn't very good for us. We had to go to Ned rig, you know, in the areas where the fish are spawning. And that bite's, it's nothing like what it should be in a couple weeks, because I think the fish are just now coming up in there. But something to keep in mind too is, you know, once that water tops 50, 55 degrees, which it is now, you always want to keep a topwater handy. I like a walking bait, like something similar to like a spook or a Strike King Sexy Dog. But, you know, keep an eye out for fish that are, you know, surfacing, and even throw it over some treetops. Still getting a few bites on jerkbait, but it's kind of like my crankbait. I got to cover a lot of water. You know, I think there's definitely some fish that have moved up, but there's a lot more to come. And they just seem like they haven't staged yet off them main lake points or out in front of them spawning areas. It just seems like there's a few that are, but I think there should be a whole lot more coming in. You know, the weather looks like it's going to get cool for a few more days, so it should probably drop that water temperature down. But the fish, I mean, they are so wanting to come up and spawn, you know. I mean, it's time. The water temperature's getting right. So, like I said, I'm seeing quite a few beds, just not a lot of fish on them. But that should increase. And once you start seeing a lot more beds up there on the bank, like a little fluke style bait, on like a 4-rod hook, no weight, just kind of parallel on the bank the same way I'm crankbaiting in the areas that they're spawning. If they won't bite that, you know, try a wacky rigged Ned rig, especially, or not a Ned rig, Cinco, or, you know, 5-inch stick bait. You know, tubes and or football jigs are also working out in that 15 to 25 foot range, and it seems like the bluff ends, I'm catching a few more fish than I am out on them long flat gravel points. I believe that bite's going to get better out there. I sure hope so, because it makes it a lot easier on guiding when they're out on that flat gravel. But I think more of these fish that are out there underneath that shad out in the middle of the lake, as they start moving in, the jig bite, Carolina bite, Ned rig bite's going to do nothing but improve. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.